Right, but just to clarify, so you had no role in that particular unit being
But Tom,
involved.
I've already said, I've actually made it clear, Tom. I've said absolutely not. And again, for you to even be asking that question is an indictment on your level of journalism.
I then release a video that criticises the police's response and, shockingly, I know you're not going to believe this, proves that the guy that complained to the police had something to do with the police being involved in Christo's arrest. Always the one you least suspect.
A couple months ago, one of the best journalists on the planet, who also happens to be a YouTuber, got his house firebombed due to his investigations into a large network of corruption in Australia. I really do mean those words earnestly. Journalism is in such a poor spot right now. Modern journalism has about as much respect as the bronies did during the early 2010s. You remember that community of adults that used to jerk off to My Little Pony? It's an industry that thrives off of just feeding shit into the mouths of everyone that happens to come across their headlines. They're either writing meaningless articles, not focusing on anything important, writing blatant lies about shit, or just generating their own controversies to farm rage bait clicks from people just to drive traffic to their site. Is because FriendlyJordies does real, meaningful journalism, one of the very few in the field that does. He's a political commentator, a YouTuber, and a comedian, and he combines all of these into extremely hard-hitting investigations into corruption in the government, and he presents all of the information factually, with sources, with evidence, and delivers it in extremely entertaining ways. So it's palatable to anyone, even if you're not in Australia, it gets you educated and it entertains you. It is just the perfect blend of everything you could ever want from a journalist, really.
And the reason that we're talking about him today is his historic battle with corruption and his coverage of it in the government of New South Wales, which is a place in Australia, and particularly his battle with the former Deputy Premier of New South Wales, a fellow by the name of John Barilaro. John Barilaro.
The
examples of the former Deputy Premier's corruption are extensive. Check this out.
Here's Johnny.
It kind of begins with videos I was making about the insane land clearing rates in New South Wales because of the actions of John Barilaro's government. Led by Premier Gladys Berejiklian, we had an increase in land clearing rates by over 1,300%, making Australia the only developed nation having a global deforestation hotspot next to its name, and putting koalas on track for extinction by 2050, and to pay costs to John Barilaro's lawyers for daring to even ask. Now, ready to hear the most mind-bogglingly illogical challenge that we faced during the defo case. One of the things that John was suing me for was saying that he had lied to Parliament. Yet because of parliamentary privilege, basically English law from the 17th century designed to protect politicians' freedom of speech from the King of England getting in your face, in Australia, nothing said in Parliament can be examined by a court. For Americans, Parliament is like Congress. That means I'm unable to present a transcript in which we believe John lied to Parliament in order to mount my defence. John brings a suit against me and then hides behind special parliamentary protections only afforded to him. So my legal team launches an application to strike out that claim, opposed again by Barilaro, who fights tooth and nail to keep that claim in and keep his special protections that prevent his own words from being examined in court. And guess what? We lose.
Well, I mean, that's confusing.
That's tough
to wrap your head around.
It's already an automatic loss for me because my opponent, the man who brought the lawsuit, is protected by a British law from the 17th century. Oh yeah, and all the whiles, I'm being surveilled by a dedicated strike force on behalf of John Barilaro. I hadn't even been firebombed yet someone thought I hadn't suffered enough. Barilaro basically took no notice. Then, only a few hours later...
No, I'm allowed to film it though. No, I'm allowed to film it.
No, you're not, because you're under arrest.
Could you film
I'm allowed to film it.
Could you film this, Mum?
You can film it, that's okay, but you're not allowed to, okay?
Yeah. I'm not allowed to. No, Mum, you can take my... No, you can take my phone. No, take my phone. Take my phone. Don't you...
What the f***? Yeah, they're giving away evidence and trying to run away with it. Yeah? Don't run off with evidence. Okay? Who are you doing this? You're out with... Jesus Christ.
I'm coming. Where is it? film this.
I am.
Make
What
sure
the
you don't film it. This is bizarre.
This is not Australia.
Yeah, it's marked dated.
Have you got the number? You hurt a 51-year-old woman. You knocked
I
me
tripped over.
You killed my dog.
I tripped
who's
over.
old.
Okay.
No, you did not.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
pushed your way. You pushed
No,
me
no,
down.
I tripped over.
You
That's
assaulted
whatever it was.
me. You assaulted
Okay.
me. You
No, I
just
didn't.
assaulted me. I've got
did.
witnesses.
We told
I've
you
got-
to hand over the phone.
I have got witnesses.
You handed it to her. I tripped over you.
You pushed
That's what
me
happened.
down in my own home.
No, I didn't.
You
I
absolutely.
environment. That's all.
So it seems I've made enemies of politicians, lawyers, and now the police. Christo was arrested by the Terror Police, specifically the Fixated Persons Unit, charged with 4 counts of stalking and intimidation. So we're now facing criminal charges and a defamation suit. We raised $1 million in legal funds, which we're still using to this day. Thank you so much. Weeks after the arrest, New South Wales has plunged into lockdown, and I know from how much time I had to spend on it, instead of focusing on his job as Deputy Premier during a crisis, Barilaro is spending a significant amount of his time preparing his defamation suit against a YouTuber. Even Logan Paul had the decency to back out of that. I didn't know this at the time, but these videos caused John's office to contact the New South Wales Police Force just days after their release, specifically the Counter-Terrorism and Special Tactics Command. New South Wales Police then set up a dedicated strike force to put surveillance on us, a YouTube channel. That's right, in Australia our terror police go after YouTube channels. It was called Strike Force Wyargen. What the f is Wyargen? Why couldn't they have just called it what they were targeting? Strike Force Big Cock. I told you this was a bizarre story, but it gets stranger. At the same time this is happening, John's also contacting defamation lawyers, who we have also confirmed were at some point in contact with the strike force surveilling us. The defamation lawyers draft up this absolutely schizophrenic letter detailing all of John's grievances with the videos I made, including that I called him a greasy little scrotum. He needed to clear the record on that one, let everyone know that's not true. This letter gets sent to me just a few days before Christmas of 2020, and because unlike you lucky Americans, we don't have your First Amendment in this country, someone can very easily take you to court for calling them a stupid fat idiot, which was something else that the lawyers whinged about in this letter. The first few months of 2021 go by and they were pretty quiet, unbeknownst to us that a police terror unit is surveilling us on behalf of a guy that we exposed and made fun of. Around this time, I'm told by my neighbours that while I was away on tour, the police came and visited my house. I thought, that's quite bizarre, so I get my lawyer Mark to call up the police, who at first deny that there was any visit at all. And only after Mark quotes a time and date does he get transferred to the Counter-Terrorism and Special Tactics Command, specifically the Fixated Persons Unit, a unit set up in the wake of a deadly siege in the centre of Sydney. Basically, this unit's MO is to stop lone wolf terrorists. People like, I don't know, Joker or Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. That's literally me. The police officer there informs Mark that he had a warrant for my arrest and he was at my house to arrest me, but I wasn't there. So the police seemingly had time to think, walk back from the brink, and were apparently awaiting legal advice. I have a longer enemies list than Richard Nixon, so despite having my suspicions, I'm still not completely sure as to who done it. But enough of listing enemies, it's now time for my friends list. First of all, sorry to my neighbours and landlord, and future apology to whoever finds my corpse. It's going to be messy. I'm not going down without a fight. Big thank you, boy.
That's like actually fucking terrifying. Like he's making light of it, but the enemies that he has listed here are actually fucking horrifying. Like, I can't believe he's still staying in Australia, honestly.
In the wake of this arrest, they have become more blunt with their threats, and they are threatening dire consequences if Jordan's video remains up, and that they don't consider these threats idle threats. As you can probably imagine, Jordan and his team have tried to contact authorities. There's been no action, makes sense, or response, also makes sense, and these men are behaving as though they are above the law. Maybe because they quite literally are, and the lack of action from law enforcement has led Jordan to believe that they might be above the law. which would make sense. I mean, you know, pretty classic stuff here.